All right. Howdy. I'm excited to be here with Jacob, my good friend, and we are talking about planning your JavaScript for WordPress conference talk. Now, when we had last kind of rapped about it, we had an idea for a lightning talk kind of wedged in there about stuff that you're working on, Vue for WordPress, JavaScript for WordPress. What were your thoughts with where we kind of left off and what you had in mind for that?
Yeah, good to be on, Zach. Pretty excited. When we chatted, we were talking about doing a little lightning talk of stuff that I've been recently working on at Zeek. Some things that came to mind were working with template literals, ES 2015 template literals. A lot of times, I'm working in Vue environment or maybe in a React environment, and I have access to a lot of render functions, which allow me to kind of build out HTML. But I had a project that I was working on that I needed to render out HTML, but I didn't have Vue or React, and I kind of felt a little lost, like, hey, what do I do? So I kind of did some research and realized, template literals are one way that I'm able to kind of build my own kind of render functions and spit out HTML, and especially if I want to pass in values and check for whether values are present, and then spit those values out and eventually render out HTML. So that's something that I've been working on. It's been really fun, and I think it's a good kind of project if you have something that maybe you don't have React or Vue or a HTML templating library, but you need something like that. This is kind of like a quick and dirty way to build something like that.
Dude, I like that because once you get into building with Vue and React, you think differently about building things, right? And then you find yourself in an environment where you've got to build something onto something that's existing, especially in WordPress, right? That happens a lot because things are already built out. So that's a clever way, and I think valuable for folks to know, especially once they start shifting into that thinking, how you could drop all of that architecture and still kind of build in a similar way, right? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, totally. It was definitely, a paradigm shift when you're working in React and Vue. And then when you get back into like DOM land, you're like, oh, I just need to sprinkle in some DOM manipulation here. Like, oh, what do I do? Templating, template literals were a nice way for me to kind of, build out a function, pass in some values, something like post meta or something, and then check if that's available or spit out conditionally based on what's being passed in. So made kind of working in non-React or non-Vue, make it, a little bit better when working like in DOM land or something.
I like that. I think that's valuable. Let me throw this at you, though, because the conference has expanded since originally planned, and I can't go 2 days, but we are going to go 2 tracks. And really, my goal is just to build a library of stuff that people are going to be able to use, and I could promote almost as like course content, right? From wonderful folks like you that have experience. So if we were to take 15 minutes and expand it into 50, are there ways you think that we could take some of the stuff that you either have experience working with Zeek as a front-end dev using this stuff a lot, or extrapolate on that topic you had to fill a wider talk, and might you be open to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were to go for a longer talk, some things I've been playing around kind of dealing with, within Vue or React, within WordPress, is server-side rendered JavaScript applications, right? And if you're not familiar with server-side rendered, I mean, usually you have an SPA that JavaScript is rendering out the HTML, and a lot of times there are potential SEO concerns. There are, 2 schools of thought, I think. Some people say, oh, the search engines will index that even though there's no HTML being generated from the server. Some say no, if it's JavaScript rendering it, you're going to have SEO issues. So one solution to solving your SEO problems is doing a server-side rendered JavaScript application, also known as a universal JavaScript application. And both React and Vue have options to do that, but they can be a bit cumbersome to kind of set that up, especially if you don't have a ton of experience dealing with setting up.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah, you've got to worry about setting up a Node Express server and dealing with that. And so there are abstractions. For instance, Nuxt.js is a Vue abstraction. It's a Vue framework for creating server-side rendered applications. So I've been playing around with creating a server-side rendered JavaScript application with Vue, hitting the WordPress REST API. So I'm getting my content from the WordPress REST API. What the browser is getting from the server is actually HTML, as if it were like, WordPress. So now, you don't have to worry about potentially SEO concerns. And then there's also Nuxt will solve a lot of the problems for you as far as setting things up, setting up the Express server. So you don't have to worry about some of those kind of bootstrapping things. You can kind of just start writing code. So I think it's a nice introduction to someone that maybe knows some React or some Vue, but doesn't know a lot about server-side rendered, and maybe has some SEO concerns as well.
Okay, I like this. I know you are in a tight deadline and giving us some of your time here. You're busy front-end dev, and man, from handstand to code and extreme, covering it all. So I love this. We'll stay in touch, but I would love if we could pursue something like that, because as I've said before, like, I don't want this to be a kind of intro to JavaScript conference. Like, I want it to have some, vegan meat to it, if you know what I'm saying. So if we did something like this, I think it's not so intro to Vue, right? And folks have started building more headless stuff in WordPress, but I don't know how many of them are server side. So I think that there could be some value in this, as well as hopefully you could cover some of the basics that are probably worth, like, how are you doing those API calls and managing that? Or I don't know if authenticating is part of it, but at least the core stuff there. I love that idea, dude. Cool. I won't keep you for too much longer. Are there any other thoughts you have off the top of your head, or things around this?
No, I mean, I think it's a pretty cool thing. Nuxt is Vue's version of like server-side rendered applications. I mean, you can do server-side rendered applications within Vue. Like I said, they're a bit more complicated. So Nuxt kind of solves those problems, has a nice framework for you to kind of work within their architecture. So they're pretty good, and they're really active in the community, the contributors. So I'm a big fan of it.
Okay, I'm going to mark you down as a continued confirmed speaker, which thank you so much. I'm really excited. And then I'm not putting titles yet. I'm just putting topics. So I'm going to put Vue, Nuxt, and Vanilla.js templating for WordPress, something like that.
Sure, yeah.
Just list all of them.
Maybe something like server-side rendered, JavaScript applications.
Cool. Okay. I will put all those words in there. And dude, thank you so much for your time, man. I will let you get back to it, but excited to have you, and thanks for chatting with everyone today.
Yeah, you got it, man.